The office of the Speaker. Can we request that those who are on visual observe the discipline that goes with being on visual and be unmute until requested, otherwise during their speaking times. So the office of the speakership did not receive any notices or obituaries. On announcement, the honorable members, you are reminded that the visual sitting will be conducted in terms of the rules for the visual meetings read with our existing and standing rules. In terms of the Rule 6 of the rules for visual meeting, the quorum requirement for visual sittings at the House are provided for in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and the standing rules of the KZN Legislature Standing Rules 44 of the standing rules provide as follows. At least 1/3 of all members of the legislature must be present to constitute a plenary meeting of the legislature. The rules for the visual meetings also defined present as follows. Present means the attendance of members in the visual meeting by the electronic means in a manner that allows the member to join and participate in the meeting. The Secretary have confirmed that we have the required 1/3 of members present in order to commence with the visual sitting. The sitting is therefore properly constituted. On party voting, Rule 7D of the rules for visual sitting also state that, I'll quote, the presiding officer must, before or at the start of this discussion on the matter, expressly inform members if a party vote will be taken. In line with the above, I confirm that the debate and the voting on the division of revenue, Second Amendment Bill 2020, and the voting thereon will be done on the party-by-party basis. A party vote is a collective vote on behalf of all the members of a party present at this visual sitting, up to the total membership of that party in the sitting. However, I will allow an opportunity for any individual member to vote differently from his or her party or to abstain if any member wishes to do so. We will now proceed with the rest of the matter on the order paper. On apologies, Honorable Speaker, Ms. N. Boyce will join the sitting later due to another legislature business. Honorable MP Ntuli, MEC for Transport, Community Safety and Liaison, MEC Ntuli has been tasked by the Honorable Premier to attend to military veterans meeting, and Honorable S.H. Mthethwa. On the point 3.3 newly sworn in member, I would like to welcome a new member to the House. She is Mrs. Hlobisile Salvatoris Dlamini, who will be representing the ANC. Honorable Dlamini was sworn in on earlier today in the office of the Speaker. You're welcome. On the election of a new deputy speaker, Honorable members, I refer to the tragic and untimely passing away of the Deputy Speaker of the Legislature, the late Honorable Mr. M.E. Ndobe. His demise has necessitated the need to elect a new Deputy Speaker. I confirm that the election of the Deputy Speaker of the Legislature will be held at tomorrow's sitting, that is Thursday, the 26th of November 2020. The matter will be dealt with as the first item on the order paper. Parties were yesterday advised of this matter in writing, but I thought it's prudent to issue a further reminder to members. I further advise that Section 111 of the Constitution requires that the Speaker preside over the election of the Deputy Speaker, and that the procedure as set out in Part A of Schedule 3 to the Constitution applies to the election. Item 9 of Part A of the Schedule 3 further prescribes that the Chief Justice must make rules prescribing the procedure of such a meeting. The duties of persons presiding, the form in which nomination must be submitted, and the manner in which voting is to be conducted. The election of the Deputy Speaker will therefore be conducted in accordance with Part A of Schedule 3 of the Constitution, read with the rules of the Chief Justice. In preparation for the election process, we wish to remind members that if your party wishes to nominate a candidate for election of Deputy Speaker, parties should complete the required nomination form and return the form to the Secretary to the KwaZulu-Natal Legislature, Mrs. N. Naidu, via the email. Her email address is as follows: naidu@kznlec.gov.za. I repeat, naidu@kznlec.gov.za. In order to allow the legislature to make necessary preliminary preparations, including the preparations of the necessary ballot paper, we request that the complete nomination form be returned to the Secretary by no later than 4 p.m. today. I hereby confirm that the Secretary have been sworn in as a returning officer for the election and assure members that all information received will be treated with the utmost confidentiality. I trust members will find this in order, and I wait their urgent reply by 4 p.m. today. So on the request for members to email their speeches to Hansard team, honorable members, you are kindly reminded to send in all your speeches of debate to Mr. Alan Parrott, Control Editor, Hansard or Language Services, at parrota@kznlec.gov.za. Alternatively, speeches can be sent to Ms. Jacqueline Stone, Manager, Hansard and Language Services, at stonej@kznlegislature.gov.za. On the Speaker's Social Responsibility Program, honorable members, the legislature held its senior citizens Parliament in Utukela District on October 2020 under the theme, I quote, "Pandemics, do they change how we address age and aging?" Close quote, as part of the Senior Citizens Month activities. The Office of the Speaker has organized an event which will take place in Utugela District Municipality. The activity included distribution of PPEs to senior citizens and health screening, which is scheduled as follows. Date, 27th November 2020, time, 8:30. Venue, Lady Smith Indoor Sports Center, Alfred Duma Municipality. We must, honorable members must note that honorable members who have no legislature commitment are cordially invited to be part of the program and are requested to liaise with members affairs official Ms. Letos Bia on 079 510 6103, or the email is kznleg.gov.za, and Ms. Nonkululeko Nxumalo at 083 298 0434. The email is nxumalo@kznleg.gov.za for accommodation arrangement. Announcements on reports by the Premier. Honorable Premier, we can now give this opportunity to yourself if you have any announcements to make. Honorable Premier. Can we check whether the Honorable Premier is connected? Okay, we are waiting for your connection.
Announcement.
It's still
to make for
scrambling.
now. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
It's still scrambling.
Honorable Chairperson, I wish to indicate that we have no announcement for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Premier. We can therefore proceed to the tabling of report. On the tabling of report, we got a report from the Portfolio Committee on Finance, the report of the Portfolio Committee on Finance on the Division of Revenue Second Amendment Bill, B24 2020. The second one is Portfolio Committee on Arts and Culture, which is the oversight report on Bilanyoni Library, the oversight report on KZN Cultural Museum and Idonsa Arts Center, the report on COVID-19, and committee report on the first quarter performance report of the Department of Arts and Culture for the 2020-2021. On the Department of Social Development, the Department of Social Development annual reports for 2019-20. On the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development annual report 2019-20. Agribusiness Development Agency annual report for 2019-20, and Mjindi Farming annual report for 2019-2020. On human settlements, Portfolio Committee reports a report on eThekwini Municipality Transit Camps, a visit by the KZN Legislature Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement. On Public Works, Portfolio Committee reports of Public Works Portfolio Committee workshop held at KZN Legislature Lillian Boy Committee Room on the 4th of October and 12th November 2019. The report for oversight visit conducted by Public Works Portfolio Committee at Mahlabeni Primary School, Umkhanyakude, on the 3rd of December 2019. The report for stakeholder meeting for Public Works Portfolio Committee held at Impende Local Municipality, Uhlelo Olusha Community Hall on the 11th of December 2019 at 9. And the Public Works Portfolio Committee oversight visit, Reporter Majuba District Municipality on Tuesday, 11th of February 2020. On the item 6, formal motion on notices by the Chief Whip.
Kubaga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. We have got no motions and notices from our side as the whips. Thanks.
Thank you, and Honorable Chief Whip. Now we can move to item 7, order of the day, which is going to be a debate on voting on divisions of revenue second amendment bill. Now we need to take this opportunity just excuse me, setting out my papers here. So the report by the Chairperson of Finance Portfolio Committee on the Division of Revenue Second Amendment Bill. Over to you, Honorable S.C. Nkosi, for 5 minutes. Honorable Nkosi, we are waiting for you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm having some problems of connection. That's why I don't want to work from home. Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much for allowing us to table this report on behalf of the Finance Portfolio Committee of KwaZulu-Natal. We want to indicate that on the 13th of this month, we were briefed by the National Treasury on this bill, and also want to indicate that in accordance with Section 118 of the Constitution of the Republic, we were expected to facilitate public hearings, but most unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we couldn't do that. So we want also to indicate, Chairperson, that we did not receive any submissions from the public on this particular bill because of its technical nature. And then we want to indicate, lastly, Chairperson, that we are giving this mandate to this House to confer to the NCOP. One, that we are supporting the bill as KwaZulu-Natal, and we also wanted to recommend to this House to support the bill and then convey the message to our colleagues in the NCOP. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kosi. I think we need to sort out the timing. We are now going to enter into a debate, starting with the African National Congress. Honorable CQ Majopa for 7 minutes.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Premier, Honorable Members, the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated existing structural and fiscal fragilities and has forced the government to come up with the Division of Revenue Second Amendment Bill B24 of 2020. On the social front, it has amplified the existing inequalities and pushed many people into poverty and unemployment. The economic and fiscal outlook is uncertain and likely to undermine the credibility of the overall fiscal framework, given the outstanding wage bargaining agreement and deteriorating SOE's fiscal position. Provinces were not considered for the Presidential Employment Fund, but 7 billion has been added to the provincial equitable share, with KwaZulu-Natal receiving a portion of 1.4 billion. The Department of Education received 1.4 billion equitable share to be used to employ education assistants and to save school governing body posts at fee-paying schools and government subsidized independent school where employees have been given a leave of absence or had salaries or income reduced due to fundraising initiatives as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. These funds are meant for short-term interventions that will end by the end of 2020-21 financial year. Provinces will have to adhere to the additional reporting requirements on how these funds will be spent. Out of 500 million added to the provincial equitable share for providing food relief by Department of Social Development, KwaZulu-Natal got a portion of 103.5 million. Compensation of employees was cut by 5.4 billion, which also saw an increase of 1.8 billion, which reduced the cuts of COE to 3.6 billion. Despite additions, broad and significant cuts are expected in 21-22. One is concerned about reductions in equitable share allocation as consumption spending departments like health, education, water and sanitation is the core mandate of government. Provinces and municipalities should devise plans and report on how the reductions to the provincial equitable share and local government equitable share will be managed with specific emphasis on the effect of service delivery. The lack of adjustment and decreases, especially in basic education and agriculture, and implications of no increases thereof is concerning. The implication of budget cuts to the affected departments will need to be detailed, since it's important to understand the implications in order to mitigate any negative effects. Provinces are projected to experience real average annual decline in resources over the next 3 years due to reductions of the provincial equitable share allocations. In 2021-22, the reduction is projected to be significant, where overall intergovernmental transfers to the provinces will decline by 4.1%. In real terms, provincial equitable share is projected to decline by 5.5%. Trends to reduce provincial equitable share is a grave concern, given the role of provinces in the delivery of basic services such as health and education. The massive cuts and growth of the wage bill points to a huge risk in the service delivered by the provinces, because their compensation budgets account for a large share of their total expenditure. Over 2021 MTEF, the wage bill is expected to grow to an average of 0.8%, which is a challenge. The provincial equitable reduction is amounting to 209.7 billion over the 2021 MTEF period. Wage reductions amounting to 178 billion or 85% of the total provincial equitable share reductions raises risk of sustainability and maintenance of service delivery at a provincial level. And there is no credible plan on how the risk from the potential wage freeze fallout will be mitigated at a provincial level, which need to be looked at. The budget reductions in potential economy boosters, such as agriculture and in key service delivery departments, should take into account economic recovery plan introduced by our president, which is not clear whether reductions did consider the economic recovery plan. The reductions that affect service delivery and the budget cuts to fund SAA from the women, youth, and people living with disabilities will negatively affect poor people and vulnerable groups. The 42 million budget reduction from the National Health Insurance Program will have negative impact on the purpose of NHI of the poor people, including the vulnerable groups. The reduction has affected provincial conditional grants as well as the equitable share. The budget cuts to the arts and culture sector will impact in the economic growth. The ongoing engagements in different spheres of government will assist in the progress of addressing issues and also revisit cuts in future. In this difficult time, departments should tighten their seatbelts. Government priority should be efficiency, effectiveness, and value for money. These problems we are facing today are as a result of the economy that is not growing. Economic growth should be the main solution for the problems of each sphere of government. All monies allocated in different spheres of government must be accounted for, as opposed to allocating even just more resources as a solution, because it can't be the solution to allocate the money if there is no efficiency as well as the value for money and also the accountability on the monies that are being appropriated. The spheres of government and its departments must learn to do more with less. All funds or budget not spent should be committed to prevent it being taken back to national government. Honorable House Chair, thank you very much. As the African National Congress, we support the second amendment bill. Thank you.
Thank you. CQ. We are now moving to the second. Honorable Member, IFP, from IFP, Honorable LJ declared for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. The COVID-19 pandemic required the Minister of Finance to table a supplementary budget on the 24th June 2020 budget, which was also a supplementary budget on the budget table in February this year. The second amendment was tabled on the 28th of October 2020. The proposed adjustments seek to consolidate government spending, particularly the public wage bill, which is a massive problem for South Africa, to make funds available for other pressing delivery priorities. It must be noted as a positive move that an additional 1.5 billion was added to conditional grants for job creation. It's just so sad that government does not understand proper economic principles and doesn't know that the only real jobs created will be jobs created by the private sector. A further 7 billion was added to the baseline for public employment of teachers, assistants and screeners and cleaners. It is, however, ever disheartening to know that some of the cleaners and screeners have not been paid their allowances in some parts of KZN. Just in October, a number of school cleaners in Pongolo in the northern parts of KZN down tools and embarked on a strike demanding their remuneration. They even threatened to shut down several schools. Sadly, because of the African National Congress' misguided belief in using parastatals like the South African airline as vehicles to drive their so-called developmental state, an amount of 10.5 billion was cut from conditional grant to cater for the bottomless pit, namely the SSA rescue plan. One should actually read not rescue plan, but liquidation plan, as it is not rescuable. Here is a list of the effective grants. 224 million was deducted from the HIV, TB and community engagement grant. 14 million rand was reduced from the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program grant. And 5 million was reduced from the Ilima Letsema program grants. So, emerging farmers and communities, agricultural, rural projects that need support must wait so that rich people can fly around in aeroplanes. 52 million rand from the health facilities revitalization grant. This is terrible because hospitals like Grace Hospital had no proper structures to accommodate COVID-19 patients. Some patients died in tents that were installed in the Royal Showgrounds. This conditional grant could have helped a lot to revitalize some of the health facilities. 14 million rand for community library services grant and 56 million rand for the National Tertiary Services grant. And lastly, 980,000 rand for the Land Care Program grant. These reductions have nothing to do with COVID-19 and fall squarely on the government's shoulders. Shame on you, ANC. You profess to be pro-poor, but the facts prove otherwise. Local government reductions was to the amount of 613 million. 253 million for the public transport network grant. 180 million from the municipal infrastructure grant. 78 million from water service infrastructure grant. 55 million from regional bulk program grant. 18 million rand from the neighbor development grant. 4 million from the integrated and development grant. I'm getting tired. And 2 million rand from the infrastructure skills development grant. These reductions do not include the general cuts to our equitable share, cuts for the Isanduna, cuts for COVID-19, cuts for because of corruption and theft. There's been cuts from the beginning of this House, this session of the House. Honourable members, our economy is in a sorry and dire strait, and as shown is mainly so because, and the blame can mainly be laid by the feet of the African National Congress government and their policies. It is now time to act. Next year's elections will be pivotal. It is important to place a caring and a pro-poor government into place.
Thank you, Honourable Tukla.
Mooi praat, yeah.
We are now moving to the next speaker from the DA, Honourable F.A. Rogers, for 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, after yesterday's debate, let me start the debate by saying to be patriotic to this country means that you hold government to account as opposition. Unlike Honourable Sonjika, who seemed to feel that when we're critical of the ANC, we're unpatriotic. That's actually not the case. However, the division of revenue in the Second Amendment Bill placed the province of KwaZulu-Natal in the eye of the fiscal storm, Chairperson. The question is, can the African National Congress and its alliance partners steer the province out of the storm? Although this division of revenue sees some benefit, which we welcome, such as the 103 million for food relief during COVID-19 and the additional 1.4 billion rand added to the baseline for employment and education at schools, the biggest blow is the cut to the provincial compensation budget of 5.3 billion rand. or a 6.5% reduction on the current wage bill. The DA, in fact, welcomes this cut. For some time, we've bemoaned the bloated bureaucracy that has certainly not morphed itself into a capable and ethical state. The COVID-19 PPE corruption scandals is but just one example of this, Chair. The wage cut of over 5 billion rand is not the end of the woes facing the African National Congress. These cuts will continue into the MTEF. And in the next 3 financial years, it's going to bite even harder than it's going to bite this year. This is, in fact, where the chickens have come home to roost for the ANC, because for far too long, the ANC has used the state as employment for patronage and poor cadre deployment. As it were, the ANC have now created its own monster. The question now remains, will the ANC's alliance partners buy into these drastic measures? History tells us no. Currently, unions are deadlocked in the courts on this matter, so if the alliance partners do not reach consensus, the state will have to borrow more money to fund this compensation, meaning the debt repayments will push South Africa into a debt spiral, leaving very little for service delivery and critically placing further pressure on key departments such as health and education. Add to this, KZN does not escape the 10.5 billion rand bailout for South African Airways. Now, the minister, the national minister, just yesterday tweeted again, what should we do with SAA? Now, if the national minister, Tito Mboweni, doesn't know what to do with SAA, how does the ANC know what they're doing with it? Why are we having to bail it out at the tune of 10.5 billion rand? And it's not going to end there. It's going to continue. And I find it interesting, Chairperson, that when we travel on study tours, I have yet to fly with South African Airways. Why do we not support our own national carrier? Why do we fly Ethiopian Airlines? Why do we fly all these foreign airlines when we should start and support at home? But nevertheless, this cut will cut deep. We will now be funding South African Airways. And what's worse is municipalities will in fact be funding South African Airways. Now we know that this is where service delivery is collapsing at a phenomenal rate, yet we still want to hold municipalities to account and let them bail out South African Airways. The future under this division of revenue, although the DA supports the bill, is bleak. I thank you.
Thank you. And now the next speaker will be from the EFF, Honorable LG Seja, for 3 minutes.
No. Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to honorable members. The EFF will support budget cuts as long as there is no demonstration by the ruling party. We'll never support budget cuts as long as there is no demonstration by the ruling party that they are dealing with fruitless and wasteful, as well as the irregular expenditure that keeps rising. KZN has been hit by 5.3 billion cuts, which is worrying the EFF. As much as we understand the tough times, but this is just not good for our province. There is a warning of a second wave of COVID-19, and with the tourism open, the province will be receiving a lot of people from other provinces. This means we will be highest hit by this second wave. To date, this government has done nothing about keeping the tide of corruption in this country. Its officials are rotting from it, and the stretch fills the homes of the poorest of the poor with shame and regret at having been forced to vote for this corruption because of cheap food parcels, demeaning social grants and t-shirts. The perpetrators of this wicked and greedy crimes against our people were recently seen in all their glory during the COVID-19 pandemic, where funds that were presently and ashamedly stolen by hijacking and looting of the emergency measures put in place to deal with COVID-19. Measures including a 500 billion relief package for the food parcels for the needy, temporary social grant for over 16 million people, and a temporary relief scheme for employees whose salaries were affected, and emergency procurement regulations were mercilessly looted and floated. Now a budget cut is a contradiction because you have already cut the budget for 26 years with your looting and corruption. Another factor that we want to reiterate is the lack of spending on the conditional grants. The adjustment budget has confirmed this. Our HIV TB grants was cut. This is worrying as our province is hardest hit by the HIV prevalence. Cutting this budget is making things worse, and with COVID-19, these kinds of diseases thrive. Other provinces got an increase on this grant, which further says that we are getting a cut because we are not spending it fully. Let the leadership of this province deal with under-expenditure. Let the leadership of this province deal with under-expenditure. Agriculture Department was also hit by the budget cuts on conditional grants. The poverty elevation grant and ILIMA were affected. And as the EFF, we really see the need to increase these grants. Let us deal with wastage in our pursuit. Budget cuts are not the solution, but proper controls are the solution. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. We're now moving to the Speaker from NFP, Honorable VR Mlotshwa, for 1 minute.
Zingela ngumdlwane. Mthombeni. No, thank you, Speaker. As the NFP will accept and support of the bill. However, we are concerned by the decision the National Treasury made to reduce funds in provincial and local government infrastructure grant, knowing exactly that the ANC has failed to use the money to maximum. The President declared that infrastructure projects are to be the real drivers of South Africa's economic recovery. Reducing of fund to infrastructure grant is in contradiction to the aim of using infrastructure to boost the economy. The transfer of funds from the departments and contingency reserve towards 10.5 billion as a business rescue fund. This is done at an expense of quality service delivery in the affected departments. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are now moving to the Speaker from Minority Front, Honorable S. Chakalash Bansi, for 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable members, although the Minority Front supports the DORA's Second Amendment Bill 2020, the following advice must be seriously noted. COVID-19 pandemic effects are being felt now, not only by the already poor, but even by other income groups who are slipping below the poverty line. Job losses are inevitable with this communicable disease, honorable members. Situationally, the gains made by our government, whether in terms of underspending or relaxation on grants, must focus on poverty eradication. Right now, with the second lockdown looming, food, water, sanitation, clean air, electricity, as well as food are the basic Maslow hierarchy of needs for our people. Therefore, the MF recommends a budget house in OTP or DSD to create a poverty action lab, mimicking that of the 2019 Economic Nobel laureates Banerjee and Duflo, to invest in evidence-based projects based on assessments of what impacts the poor and what does not. The MF would like to see most of the 1.4 billion second adjustment budget to eradicate poverty.
Thank you, Honorable Chakalash Bansi. Your time is up.
Yes, with this we support the bill. Thank you.
We are now moving to the Speaker from ATM, Honorable M.E. Phakathi. Honorable M.E. Phakathi. Honorable M.E. Phakathi, in the absence of Honorable Phakathi, there is an arrangement under Rule 7.5 that Honorable V.R. Mlotshwa will stand in for Honorable Pagat.
Honorable House Chair, sekwimhlwane emibili-ke izokhipha inje. Honorable members, though we have reservation about intended cut on the public wage bill by the National Treasury, but since the people of this country have lost employment amazingly and big businesses have collapsed due to corona global disaster, we have to accept that all of us, we need to share what we have as a country, be it as it may. We know that the national allocation seems to address and balance adjustments so that we do more on the little we have during these financial challenging times. I thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, point of order.
Asikbud.
Honorable Speaker, point of order.
Okay, rule under Ruba.
Oh, point of order, Speaker. Was that a new speech or a continuation of the old speech from the other party?
Aye.
Just clarity.
Let's go on. The next speaker from ACDP, Honorable S.E. Mangale. We have received an apology from Honorable Pagati, therefore, who have also indicated that he have authorized Honorable V.R. Mlotshwa to deliver.
Hayibo. Uzosibusisa ukuthi
Hayibo, 3 minutes onke.
But he doesn't know anything
Apparently, we are getting something.
He doesn't know.
Can you indicate, Honorable
Chair? I didn't receive anything.
Okay. Honorable Mlotshwa appear not to be aware of such an arrangement. Therefore, we'll pass to the next.
Speaker.
Are you standing up on a...
Speaker.
Who must?
No name. We don't know speaker.
Is the Honorable Mangale.
Speaker, Honorable Mangale.
Ubab Mangale?
Yebo, Speaker.
Umfundisi akanikwe bo.
Baba Mfundisi, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, Speaker.
Easy.
I need to speak.
Oh, when in bed?
Yebo, Speaker.
Sicela ukubona ubuso bakho.
Speaker, nginenkinga lapha nayizolo bengingabonakali i-laptop yami idinga ukulungiswa.
Sicela ubuso.
Bethi ngizama ukuchaza ku-speaker ukuthi i-laptop yami ine-problem noma ngiyivulile nje kodwa ngibonakali.
Sesiyalizwa kizi.
Yebo,
okay, asikuvumeleke Honorable Mangale for 1 minute.
Thank you, Speaker. We share a strongly rooted concern regarding the proposed 1.3 billion reduction in the provincial condition grants to provide for SAA business rescue plan, which requires 10.5 billion. The conditional grants are the key vehicle to provide critical services to the communities. So the continued reduction of education, health, and agricultural grants are a serious problem and require a robust engagement between the Committee, National Treasurer, as we are conducting the exercise our role, oversight role. Even though the government had to fund SA Business Rescue Plan, but the SADP has got a concern about the manner in which this money is reduced from the provincial budget. This will send a message to the
Thank you, Bab Mangaile. Thank you, Honorable Mangaile.
Thank you.
We are now moving to a speaker from the African National Congress, Honorable Maggie Govender.
Thank you, Chairperson, and appreciation to the ANC for allowing me to make this contribution. Honourable Speaker, Chairperson, as has been pointed out, this amendment bill covers changes to the provincial equitable share as well as to provincial and local government conditional grants. And the funds are required for the Presidential Employment Initiative as well as to cater for the SAA Rescue Plan. The largest share of this reduction falls on compensation, while other non-interest spending items are reduced, and there is also a proposed wage freeze for the next 3 years. So there are hard times ahead, Chairperson, and we as the Legislature and provincial departments are part of this. I will be dealing, Honourable Speaker, with the effects of the amendments of the provincial and local government grants. In terms of supporting the Presidential Employment Initiative, a total of 1.5 billion was added to direct conditional grants generally for provinces for job creation purposes. And in support of the 10.5 billion required to fund the SAA Business Rescue Plan, provincial conditional grants, including direct and indirect transfers, will be reduced by 1.3 billion. There's also rolled over grant funding. The school infrastructure backlog grant is rolled over to complete projects that are part of the Sanitation Appropriate for Education initiative. And the rolled over funds are specifically for schools in the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Limpopo. There are also changes to the structure of provincial allocations. The title deeds restoration grant ends in 2021, and the funds go back to the Human Settlements Development Grant, and this will fund the eradication of backlogs in providing much needed title deeds to subsidize houses built before 2014. There's also a new informal settlements upgrading partnership that is going to be introduced. So, Honourable Chairperson, let me now talk about the adjustments to the KwaZulu-Natal provincial grant allocations. The province's conditional grant allocation goes up by 2.73 million. But, Honourable Chair, we must say that this is to be used to implement the employment creation initiatives, not anything else. And whilst this is positive, we cannot ignore the more substantial cuts that have been effected. So I will talk about those as well. But the National Health Insurance Grant, as part of the Presidential Employment Initiative, gets 5 million to pay salaries and costs of contracted doctors. The HIV, TB, malaria, and community outreach grant gets 56 million added to the community outreach services component for personnel support, and the COVID-19 component has been increased. Social development gets an increase of 89 million to the ECD grant, and transport gets an increase of 81.3 million towards the provincial roads maintenance grant. All of these are intended to create employment opportunities. Let's now look at the reductions to the provincial conditional grant allocations. In total, KZN receives a 64.8 million cut in its conditional grant allocations, and this is effected in 6 conditional grants. You've got a cut of 58 million, mainly from the HIV/AIDS component in health. You've got the comprehensive agricultural support program grant being cut by 2 million. Ilima Letsema projects grant is cut. The land care program grant is cut. Mass participation and sports development grant is cut. And the community library services grant is cut. Honourable Chairperson, as you sow, so shall you reap. And these grants have historically been underspent. And obviously, this is where the cuts have then occurred. In terms of education, Honourable Chairperson, the education infrastructure grant and the HIV and AIDS life skills grant are both cut. And human settlements gets a cut as well in relation to the Human Settlements Development Grant and the Title Deeds Restoration Grant. Now, Honourable Chairperson, let me now talk about reductions to local government grant allocations. In terms of, there have been 13 grants that have been reduced, and these include the Municipal Infrastructure Grant, the Integrated Urban Development Grant, Urban Settlements Grant, Public Transport Network Grant, and it goes on, Honourable Chairperson. Only 5 grants to KZN municipalities have not been reduced, and these are the Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant, the Rural Roads Asset Management Systems Grant, the Neighbourhood Development Partnership Grant, the Local Government Financial Management Grant, and the Expanded Public Works Program Integrated Grant for Municipalities. An increase does take place in the Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant, which is an indirect transfer. Again here, Honourable Speaker, Chairperson, it is an issue of you snooze, you lose. When funds were not spent, they were areas where the first cuts occurred. There are also some changes to the structure of local government allocations. There's a new informal settlements upgrading partnership grant, and there is also the suspension of underperforming cities from the public transport network grant to free up funds for cities that are operational and performing better. The grant frameworks of the following grants are amended to ring fence and include the conditions attached to the approval of the Presidential Employment Initiative funding. So it's the HIV, TB, malaria and community outreach grant, the statutory human resources training and development grant, and the early childhood development grant, and the provincial roads maintenance grant, all of which I've spoken about before. But there are strict conditions attached. The progress in the implementation of these grants has to be monitored, and progress reports have to be submitted. There has to be progress reports on a monthly basis to the presidency. 1 month after the funds are received, the receiving officers must provide a detailed breakdown to the relevant transferring officer, presidency, and the National Treasury of how the money is being spent, and receiving report officers must report in terms of the requirements in the DORA framework. Honourable Speaker, these reductions are not pleasant or welcome. In most, if not all cases,
Thank you.
The ANC supports the amendment bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have exhausted the list of our speakers. We can now call upon the response from the chairperson of the Finance Portfolio Committee, Honorable Singh Kosi. We are allocating 5 minutes to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I also want to thank the honorable members who have supported the second adjustment bill of the DORA. I want also to indicate, you listen to people when they argue, and then you assess. I believe that the argument advanced by few members, including the 2 speakers of the ANC, sent a message to me that they understand the objectives of this bill. That's one point that I wanted to indicate, because the bill contains both the positives and the negatives. It must be understood just like that. There is an old saying, Speaker, that says complex problems don't require simple solutions. Some of us will resort to populist arguments as if such arguments will solve complex problems. I could hear some of the honorable members who are very, very simple in terms of argument and not speaking even to what is contained in the bill. Honorable Mlocho, I would want to indicate, my brother, honorable member, that there is a big difference between the ANC and the ANC-led government. In this case of your argument, it is not the ANC that is spending budget, but it could be the ANC-led government. We'll talk about these phrases outside here. Chairperson, Speaker, I want to clarify the issue of the 5.3 billion rand. I think that we did not understand what is the argument of the National Treasury. This 5.3 billion rand is budgeted for at a 5.8 billion percent by government departments towards the wage bill. That's what we have to understand. The wage bill, which is payable in 2020-2021. We want to indicate to you, Speaker, that the negotiations at the moment between the state as the employer and the trade unions as workers have not been concluded. According to the National Treasury, it anticipates that that agreement might not be reached in the current financial year. That's why they recall. We wait and see as to what will transpire in the court case on the 2nd of December. That's what I wanted just to clarify so that honorable members don't get confused. If the agreement and the court rules in favor of the public servants on Wednesday, the 2nd of December, then the National Treasury will have to release the money so that it is payable with effect from the 1st of April 2020. This is what must be understood. Because why then the recall is because of the fear that it might not be reached, the agreement. So this is what we wanted to be clarifying. Thank you very much, honorable members and the Speaker, for allowing us to educate those people who dream of solving complex problems using simple solutions. It doesn't happen like that in life.
Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Citing here.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Okay. We thank you to the honorable members. We have now come to the end. We have now come to the end of the debate on the division of revenue, Second Amendment Bill B24-2020. So the House now needs to confer a final and a voting mandate on the bill as per the request of the Finance Portfolio Committee. I now put the question to the House as follows. The KwaZulu-Natal Legislature agrees to confer authority on 1, the KZN provincial delegation to the NCOP to cast a vote in favor of the Division of Revenue Second Amendment Bill B24 of 2020 at the relevant NCOP Select Committee, and 2, the head of the provincial delegation to NCOP or a delegate designated by the head of the delegation to cast a vote in favor of the Division of Revenue Second Amendment Bill B24 of 2020 at the NCOP plenary. So as I indicated prior to the start of the debate, I will now go party by party to obtain the vote and therefore check if any member wishes to record an individual vote. I'll therefore start with the IFP.
Honorable Chair of Chairs, the IFP votes in support of the Second Amendment Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Then let's go to DA. Now your turn, DA.
Thank you, Chairperson. the simple solution to a complex bill is the DA supports it.
Okay, thank you.
You are naughty.
DA. We are moving to EFF.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson. The EFF support the bill.
Thank you.
I'm shocked.
Oh, there's a point of order.
You can't be shocked.
Just hold on. We have already expressed yourself there.
Yeah. We are supporting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Chairperson, the honorable member is addressing the chairperson sitting down.
Oh. Okay. Just do the easy thing, Honorable Senator, just stand up and then express yourself.
No, I said the EFF is supporting the bill. That's what I said.
Okay, you can now sit down.
Oh.
Thank you. And now we can move to NFP.
House Chair, the NFP support the bill.
Thank you. NFP supports the bill. Minority Front.
Honorable Chair, the Minority Front supports the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. ACDP.
Chair, we also support the bill. ACTP does support the bill.
Thank you. ATM.
Honorable Chair, ATM support the bill.
Thank you. And last,
Honorable Deputy Speaker, on a point of order. Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Point of order.
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
What is the point of order? Can you hear it?
Can the vote also be delegated?
Pardon?
Can the vote also be delegated like the speeches are delegated when the member is not in the House? Can the voting also be delegated?
We'll check that and then we'll indicate before the end of this vote.
I don't think so.
ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC supports the bill.
Thank you. Members, I have the votes of all parties now. Is there any member who wishes to express an individual vote that is different from their party vote or to abstain? None. Okay, if there is none, Secretariat, can I ask for the tally of the votes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The voting results are as follows. Votes in favor 73, votes against nil, abstentions nil. We also indicate that the ATM is not recorded as a vote because the ATM is not in the House and there are no rules to delegate voting by proxy. Rule 73 simply provides for acting in the absence of a member. So though the ATM vote has not been counted, the total votes in favor is 73. Thank you.
Can you repeat the total number?
It's 73 votes in favor, votes against is nil, and abstentions is nil.
Thank you. So the ayes have it. So the House confers the final and the voting mandate on the bill, which brings us to the end of this debate. Thank you for behaving so good, honorable members. We can now move to the next item, which is the last item of the day, which is the debate on matters of public importance regarding the investigation of Commission for Gender Equality on the reported matter of forced sterilization of women living with AIDS in South Africa, which was done on the 24th of February, which was given on the 24th of February 2020. We're now going to call upon the mover of the motion on the matter of public importance. We are calling upon Honorable N.L. Baipeli for 5 minutes. Honorable Baipeli, we are given the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we are here today to speak about a subject that has been deliberately shunned by the South African government. It is shunned because it is more than anything else a mirror through which the state should see a reflection of itself in the manner it relates to women, to Black women, and in particular to poor Black women. Even more regrettable, as we are debating this matter, 3 of the women who were identified as victims by the Commission for Gender Equality have unfortunately passed away. They died emotionally battered, psychologically scared, and physically mutilated, in the literal meaning of the word. These women were victims of violence unleashed on their bodies by the state, which was meant to protect them. They were not alone. They were part of a group of 48 women identified in the study by the Commission for Gender Equality as having been forced by the state to sterilize. Their primary sin was that they were women, and that secondarily, that they were HIV positive. We urge that these women were abused, mutilated, stripped of their dignity, had their rights to reproductive health dispossessed from them, simply because they are women. And the state frowns at the sight of poor Black women. The state enables this violation of Black women's rights everywhere. The state implicitly abets men who think they have the right to women's bodies through the weak criminal justice system. And now the state needed no one to do these evil acts. The state took it upon itself to maim Black women, to dehumanize them, to take their reproductive rights away simply because they were Black women. It is important to understand this race gender class exists of oppression and exploitation. The victims identified in the Commission for Gender Equality were Black, the most wretched and exploited race in this country. They were women, the most vulnerable to abuse and the most dejected members of society. They were poor, which is a product of both their race and their gender, but also an enabler of their oppression. So, Chairperson, what are we talking about here? It is a well recorded that in February this year, the Commission for Gender Equality released a report titled Investigation Report on the Forced Sterilization of Women Living with HIV and AIDS in South Africa, in which chilling details of forced and sterilization of HIV positive women at the hands of healthcare workers in public hospitals were reported. Rightfully so, the CGE condemned this violation of women's bodies and made some solid recommendations. The CGE recommends that the Department of Health must interrogate and scrutinize the provisions of Sterilization Act and interrogate consent forms for sterilization to ascertain whether the provisions contained therein provide for and protect the principle of informed consent in all respects. The National Department of Health must report to the CGE within 3 months of receipt of this report as to what concrete steps the department will take in order to ensure that the eradication of harmful practice of forced sterilization. The Department of Health must facilitate dialogue between themselves and the complainants in order for them to find ways of providing redress to the complainants. The Department of Health must revise consent forms to bring them into conformity with the guidelines provided by International Federation of Gynecology and standardized for all sterilization procedures. All consent forms must be printed in all official languages, and the explanation around the procedure, particularly its irreversible nature, should be given in the patient's language of choice. The Department of Health must ensure that their filing system, both manually and electronic, are standardized for ease of coordination. Feedback to the latter must be provided within 3 months from the date of this report. The Health Professions Council of South Africa must engage with this report on this matter, as they have the necessary capacity to investigate the professional conduct and behavior of the implicated healthcare practitioners. The South African Nursing Council to investigate the professional conduct and behavior of the implicated healthcare practitioners. CGE to present this report as part of its petition to South African Law Reform Commission for amendments to legislation that ensure consent is properly obtained, such as counseling prior to consent, the timing of obtaining consent, and compulsory information must be provided. No engagement was had.
Thank you, Honorable Mpaipeli. Can we therefore move to get our debate from the Speaker of the ANC, Honorable N.M. Sbiya, for 9 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I think we are debating a very important matter today that need all of us to be sober and not grandstand it with any way that we can believe we can use to grandstand. Honorable Chairperson, I want to firstly raise the issue that this government of the ANC is known. It's the government that is the signatory of all statutes in the UN that have to do with the protection of the rights of women, and part of all the conventions that are ending all forms of discrimination against women in the world. But also, Chairperson, it is very important that we also put it forward in our debate that what happened is really something that, as the government of this ANC, is regrettable and shouldn't have happened. We need to accept that such act that we heard of and that has been investigated by the Commission today is an act of violation of human rights and human dignity. The ANC government and the ANC as the party is known worldwide that it's centered on the protection of human rights and also human dignity. But also it is known to be a party that is centered to equality and all the rights that are found in the Constitution in this country, in particular the Bill of Rights, are the most important rights, and the most important charter of our Constitution is where we find the Bill of Rights, which was written and the brainchild of this government. We believe in the protection of our people in general, but our women in particular. The government of the ANC has made serious strides in emancipating our women and giving them freedom to choose. Freedom of choice. We have fought for all freedoms since the inception of the ANC. Since the ANC was formed, ours was to make sure that all our people are liberated and are free to choose whatever they wish to choose. We have fought tirelessly as this government to accelerate equality in this country and fighting any form of discrimination in this country as well. It's known worldwide, Honorable Chairperson, what this government of the ANC stands for in the entire world. Every right to choose matters to the ANC and its government. That's why there is an established commission to deal openly and thoroughly on this matter of forced sterilization. We must also, Chairperson made it clear that this was never a policy of the government or instructions from the government. What happened in some of our hospitals is disappointing, Honorable Chairperson, and stands against everything this government of the ANC stands for. It can never be denied that this disgusting act can never be left unattended. That's why this government has established this commission to deal with this matter. It's not shunning away from this matter, but it is taking it head on and openly so that it's addressed and it never happens again, because it's never what this government stands for. We condemn the act of forced sterilization of HIV-positive women by anyone in this country. The commitment by our government to act on this matter as it continues with its investigation is a clear indication, Chairperson, that this act is an act of criminal. We are confident that the Department of Health will go deeper on this matter and make sure that it gets to its bottom. We also want to assure our people out there that such an act and conduct that we see, those who are found to be the perpetrators of such wrong acts will be held to account on their deeds and their conduct. Honorable Chairperson, if anything or there is evidence, which I'm not currently saying there is no such, those women who were violated through this act, there should be means and ways by the government to address and redress such act. No women in our country deserve to be treated as such. Women's rights are everyone's business, and they must be protected. Our women deserve better, and they deserve every right to choose whether they want to have children or not. It doesn't matter whether they're HIV positive or they're HIV negative. It's very important that we respect their rights and their dignity. We appeal to our government as the ANC, Honorable Chairperson, to make sure that it gives these affected women support, both emotional and psychological support, and any other means of redress that will bring their dignity back, because the dignity of our people matters most in this government of the ANC. There will never be a day, Honorable Chairperson, that this government and this Department of Health, they will look down on the dignity of our people. We are quite certain that the Department of Health, through its commitment and through its leadership, they will go to the bottom of this matter, and they will come out very clear and be able to implement as well the decisions and the recommendations of the Commission and make sure that this matter is addressed accordingly. We understand that South Africa is the largest population in the world that is infected with HIV and AIDS, which is in the region of 13%, but this should never be used to commit any wrong act in the name of capping the infections. We are a country with laws and systems, Honorable Chairperson. The country is coming a long way, Honorable Chairperson, in fighting the scourge of HIV and AIDS, which once ravaged our people and annihilated many families, Honorable Chair. Today, a lot of work has been done by this government of the ANC to reverse the scourge of HIV and AIDS. The massive awareness campaigns that were focusing on ABC made a great impact in educating our people about this pandemic. Further, Honorable Chairperson, we know that this government of the ANC took a deliberate decision to protect our women and the newly born babies by introducing nevirapine to stop a mother-to-child transmission. This made a huge impact in curbing this pandemic. Quite a lot of interventions have been made, Honorable Chairperson, to reverse this pandemic. We are grateful to the work and the commitment by our government over the years to address the issue of HIV and AIDS in this country. Indeed, ANC is by the people, it's about the people, and it's for the people. Hlalo, sonke siyazi ukuthi la eNingizimu Afrika uhulumeni kaKhongolose usuwenze umsebenzi ongakanani ukubuyisa isithunzi sabantu bakithi ekulwiseni nobhubhane lwe-HIV ne-AIDS. But ikakhulukazi ekubuyiseni isithunzi sabantu bakithi besifazane, ibuyisa amalungelo abo, itshengisa ukuthi abantu okufanele bahlonishwe balingane na wonke umuntu okhona eSouth Africa. Awukho omunye uhulumeni osuwenze umsebenzi ongangalo ongedlule we-ANC umhlaba wonke jikelele. Lo hulumeni kaKhongolose ukutshengise ngokusobala ukuthi abantu besifazane kangakanani esizweni futhi kubaluleke kangakanani ukuthi bathathwe babekwe ezingeni elibafanele kunesimo ababekade bebhekene naso. Siyafisa ukuncoma siuhalalisa u-ANC ngendlela abantu besifazane obavikela ngayo even kulesi simo esikhona lapho abagcine bephoqwa ukuthi bangakwazi ukuthi bakhulelwe noma bathole izingane. Kodwa sikwazile njengalo hulumeni ukuthi kuvulwe ikhomishani ezokwazi ukuthi ilucubungule lolu daba ilibhekisise ize ifinyelele ekugcineni nasesiphethweni salo ukuze bakwazi nalabo abantu besifazane abathi bathinteka kulesi sigameko sonke esikhuza umhlolo ukuthi isiga lesi okwangafanele senzeke esiyisiga futhi okungasona fanele senzeke. Yingakho-ke lo hulumeni wathatha isinqumo esihlalo ukuthi ngempela lesi simo asiphenywe futhi akekho oyoshiwa ngaphandle noma oyoyekelelwa okuyotholakala ukuthi wayeyingxenye yokuthi abe enze lesi simo senzeke. Siyafisa ukunikeza abantu bakithi eNingizimu Afrika KwaZulu-Natal bazi ukuthi ngempela uhulumeni kaKhongolose uyanakekela. Uhulumeni ongeke uvume ukuthi kudlalwe ngabantu besifazane. Ithini yabo uhlele bayiphambili thina ngaso sonke.
Thank you, Honorable Sotabe. We are now moving to the next speaker for the IFP.
Chairperson, order.
Order, yeah? Is there an order? We can then move. Can all those who are in opposition, yes?
Yes. Point of order from Honorable Twala.
Honorable Twala, yes? Can you hear your order?
Chairperson, this house must have consistency. There must be consistency in this house. Yes, Chair.
We can't hear you properly, Honorable Twala.
Yes, Chair.
We are talking about consistency, but then
my order is on time allocation on the speaker moving the motion. There must be consistency in this house.
I'm struggling to hear.
Allocated 5 minutes.
I'm struggling to hear you.
Yes, I'm talking about consistency.
Yeah, but the speakers don't have already been issued. I think you need to place your concern in a different platform, not as an order. Thank you. It's not an order. Thank you. Can you get another speaker?
But I can hear you.
From the IFP. Speaker from the IFP, Honorable N.J. Nkwanyana, for 10 minutes.
Chair, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, Honorable Twala said this can't be an order. Can you speak to the Chief Whip about that outside this debate? Thank you. Honorable Nkwanyana.
Thank you, Chairperson. The IFP would like to begin by commending the non-profit organization that is Women's Legal Center, which on behalf of the Hair Rights Initiative and International Community of Women Living with HIV organization documented 48 cases in 2015 where women were allegedly either forced or coerced into agreeing to the sterilization procedure while giving birth. This then prompted an investigation by the Commission of Gender Equality. We commend the CGE for tackling this matter with the seriousness and urgency it deserves, and to ensuring that despite the hurdles along the way, the investigation was completed. Such organizations which are on the forefront of the protecting patients and upholding their women's rights must be applauded and supported. The IFP recently learned of the findings contained in the CGE investigation report into claims about women as early as 2015 who were coerced into reproductive sterilization, meaning that they were coerced or forced into a medical procedure that permanently blocks a woman's fertility. It is performed either by tubal ligation, where the fallopian tubes are tied, or a hysterectomy, removal of the uterus. The findings of the investigation revealed that women were not properly informed or counseled prior to being sterilized. Some women were not informed in a language they could comprehend, or they were not given enough time to make their decision. In some cases, it was found that women were sterilized while receiving cesarean sections. Client files were not found, despite having a record of less than 25 years. Consent forms and procedures differed from the records, and some consent forms were signed when patients were in dire pain. This is a gross violation of the rights of the women, as well as an injustice. This is still happening despite the fact that in 2016, the United Nations General Assembly committed to ending forced and coerced sterilization, in particular the sterilization of women living with HIV in the political declaration on ending AIDS. As the IFP, we strongly condemn this inhuman and unethical practice. It is a crime against humanity. Health officials in this country need to stop disregarding people's rights and treating patients with a poor attitude and rudeness. We have even heard reports that some nurses and doctors swear at women for being pregnant, or if they suffer from various conditions, humiliating their rights. This report is not shocking at all. It is not the government's policy to carry out forced or coerced sterilization. The Sterilization Act is clear that sterilization should not happen without informed consent. Using force or any other type of coercion is prohibited and considered a violation of human rights. It seems that this department does not care about human rights, and it is regularly found to be trembling on and ignoring the South African legislation, which clearly forbids coerced or forced sterilization. We are deeply disappointed that this injustice against women also takes place in this province. When the tubal ligation guidelines in 2014 set out for the Department of Health in KwaZulu-Natal, clarify the provisions for those who undergo female sterilization for healthcare practitioners. The guidelines stipulate that those who choose sterilization should have access to it and undergo an appropriate consent procedure, including counseling, information on the advantages and disadvantages of the procedure, and information on other forms of contraception available. It clearly says that obtaining consent should be conducted in the language that the patient understands and witnessed by at least one other health worker. Therefore, it is appropriate, Chairperson, that the IFS seeks suitable answers to the following questions from the KZN health authorities. 1, how many doctors and nurses have been found to be involved in this inhuman practice in KZN? 2, are these doctors and nurses still working in the same health facilities? If not, where are they now? 3, how does the department plan to deal with doctors or nurses found to be responsible for forcing or coercing women into sterilization? 4, if the doctors and nurses involved in this scandal are no longer working in the local health facilities, how will the department make sure they account for their actions? 5, does the department know how many women in KZN have been affected? 6, has the department taken any action to put a stop into this injustice against women living with HIV? 7, are there any complaints or claims to the department relating to this practice? If yes, how many? 8, at which public hospitals or clinics did this practice happen? 9, what plans are in place to prevent this malpractice from happening again here in KZN? All these questions must be answered, Chairperson. The IFP has on numerous occasions raised serious concerns about medical malpractice in provincial hospitals and healthcare facilities, which has led to the health department paying exorbitant amounts of money due to claims lodged by affected patients. People go to hospital to get treatment for medical problems, yet sadly, they receive maltreatment from the very people who are trained to assist them. Medical malpractice continues to be an area of grave concern and is costing the department millions of rands. Again, we are on record calling for the Department of Health, especially the KZMEC for Health, to intervene and find solutions to deal with incompetence, negligence, abusive behavior, unprofessionalism, as well as the irresponsible and bad attitude of health practitioners towards patients, all of which contribute to the injustice committed against patients. Many more people will lose trust and confidence in our healthcare practitioners because of the mistreatment and forms of abuse from health workers. We amount to the blatant violation of patients' rights as well as the oath they undertook at the beginning of their careers. These are fundamental human rights guaranteed to all patients, regardless of HIV status, level of education, or social status, as per numerous global, national, and regional treaties. What is further of great concern to us is the arrogance and ignorance that was displayed by the Department of Health by relation to the critical investigation. The CGE indicated that the investigation sampled public hospitals in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. The Department of Health was informed of the allegations that were reported and permission was requested to commence an investigation. A team from the department was also requested to assist with the investigation. It was indicated that after several meetings had been held between the CGE and the Department of Health to find a joint strategy, the Department of Health offered very little cooperation and delayed the process, forcing the CGE to go ahead with the investigation and to release a preliminary report of their findings without the full cooperation of the Department of Health. Is this not a clear indication that the Department of Health was something to hide, as the findings revealed? The level of arrogance has already led the department to spend billions paying medical legal claims. Further, if you care about the health of South African citizens, how could you refuse to cooperate with an investigation that seeks to get to the root of malpractice of your department? As the IFE, we are not surprised that the CGE received little cooperation from the Department of Health regarding this matter. This department is well known for its incompetence. It is therefore not shocking to us that it sadly created a barrier to the CGE obstructing it in its task to investigating this gross human rights violation. This is how cases such as life accident tragedy and the oncology crisis here in KZN happen, due to sheer arrogance and little care for the well-being of the citizens. The IFP calls upon the Health Ombudsman, the South African Nursing Council, and the Health Professional Council of South Africa to ensure that the medical practitioners responsible for this misconduct are criminally charged and their licenses are revoked. Further, the IFP demands that those found guilty must be named and shamed and blacklisted. The IFP also supports the recommendations made by the Commission that the Department of Health must put concrete steps in place to ensure that the harmful practice of forced sterilization is eliminated once and for all. Lastly, as the IFP chairperson, we will pursue this matter by ensuring that the affected women are heard by the authorities. We will find out which health facilities are still breaking the law and seek the help of relevant agencies to ensure that proper action is taken against those found responsible for committing this against the South African women. I thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. Maybe before we move to the next speaker, there are two things I would like to address in this House. One is about the nomination form for the Deputy Speaker, which we have not. I want to remind that the closure is at 4. The last time I checked, they haven't received nomination, but that was around about 20 past 3. It's just a reminder to parties. Two, I had some consultation with the officials on the concern raised by the EFF, because on checking the speakers list, there was something odd, and it is confirmed that the EFF was supposed to get 10 minutes on the mover in the motion. Therefore, that 5 minutes will be added during the response by the mover to the debate. So I will. Thank you. We can therefore move to the next speaker from the DA, which is Honorable Virana.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. As the DA, we welcome this debate on the Commission of Gender Equality's report. Looking back in the report, I find that this issue was originally raised by my colleague, Dr. Imran Kika, back in 2014, when the advocacy groups originally reported on these gross violations. At that time, it was just 24 HIV-positive women who had submitted statements. And unfortunately, at that time, Honorable Sabia, it was the ANC appointed
Sound, please, from the boardroom.
Portions of the issue is not only health related, but has deep constitutional connotations. South Africa comes from a history of gross and painful human rights violations. The apartheid state had no respect for the bodily integrity of South Africans, especially those who are Black and poor. And through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we now know of the experiments and deaths that occurred at places like Vlakplaas. This is one of the prime reasons that Section 12(2) was included in our Bill of Rights. And this guarantees that everyone has a right to make the decisions regarding their bodily and psychological integrity, including reproductive choices. Additionally, domestic legislation and South Africa's international treaty commitments prohibit sterilization through force or coercion. And a vital part of bodily integrity is informed consent. This report shows that HIV-positive pregnant women were primarily affected by this practice, and we all remember the tragic period of AIDS denialism under former President Thabo Mbeki and the ANC government, who had to be forced by the Constitutional Court and the Treatment Action Campaign to release nevirapine to HIV-infected pregnant women and their unborn children. But thankfully, this period of beetroot and African potato is over, and we have now the most extensive antiretroviral program in the world. However, the discrimination against HIV-positive pregnant women continues and is highlighted in this report. While we as a province have made significant progress, we still have a long way to go. And while after years of praise, we have now found condemnation from the United Nations, the UN Special Rapporteur on torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment stated on the 26th of February 2020 that forced and/or coerced sterilization is a gross human rights and medical ethics violation. These violations were due to their HIV status, race, and gender, and called for further action by this government to prevent anything from happening in the future. In addition to human rights violations, the findings highlight barbaric practices, namely that one, complainants were subject to cruel, torturous, or inhuman and degrading treatment, and that medical staff breached their duty of care towards patients. In 2014, my colleague, Dr. Kika, highlighted to then MEC Dloma the long-standing problems within this department's informed consent forms, but these were ignored. According to the National Health Act, healthcare workers must ensure that their patients are fully informed of all risks, benefits, consequences, costs, and alternatives to all medical procedures. And even though in this case many patient files included signed consent forms, the CGE emphasizes that this is not indicative of prior discussions that took place, and many patients did not understand the medical procedure or its long-term consequences. This procedure of forced or coerced sterilizations left many, many women facing medical and psychological problems, leading to the breaking up of their relationships and marriages as they could not have children. This is not what we expect in a democratic South Africa with the Bill of Rights that we have. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker from the DA. Maybe, Honorable Chief Whip, it will be in order that you comment on this concern that was raised before we can go on.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think we are fine with your ruling, but we want to place on record that what we did, and we request all the whips of political parties, because what we did, we sent the speakers list yesterday to all political parties to check for the accuracy of the speakers as well as the times. So that should have been corrected there or today before here. That's what all parties normally do. If there's a problem, they'll check, then they come back to the office and say, no, there is a problem there, then we correct that. It mustn't be as if it's something that was done. Yeah, even the EFF has been part of this list that is before this House. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can move on. That will be recorded. We now move to the speaker from the EFF, Honorable Gia from Jali, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. The EFF is resolute elimination state violence, particularly against the most vulnerable in our province. Not only has the EFF been in contact with the women who were tortured by the ANC government, we are also providing support and ensuring that they receive justice and those implicated are held accountable. Two of the complainants to the CGE report asked that we share their stories in the debate. It is important that we internalize that the women who were tortured by the ANC government are human beings. They are not just stats in the report. Complainant number 1. Kwakung 2015 January 8 ngiyobeletha eKing Edward Hospital. Ngahlolwa igwazi kwatholakala ukuthi ngi-HIV positive. Wathi udokotela ngizohlizwa ngoba ngizothelela umntwana if ngizibelethele. Waphinda udokotela wathi uzongivala inzalo ngoba ngizokwandisa isibalo sabantu aba-HIV positive. Wathi kuzomele ngisheshe ngiyohlizwa ngingaze ngisikwe ngoba ngizothelela umntwana. Ngase ngavalwa, ngangisemncane ngaleso sikhathi. Impilo yami inzima manje ngoba senginomkhwenyana ufuna izingane, usengilobolile kodwa mina ngeke ngikwazi ukumupha umntwana. Kunzima ukumtshena isimo engahlangabezana naso esibhedlela. Wangihlukumeza udokotela futhi namanje ngihlukumezile ngokugcina lemfihlo ngoba kunzima ukutshela umuntu okondlayo ukuthi ungeke usabathola abantwana. Wakhishwa isibeletho emva kokuvalwa. Angibange ngisaba umuntu ophila kahle ngoba ngaphathwa iqolo kusukela lapha ngisakwazi ukuma isikhathi eside, angeke ngisakwazi nanokusebenza. Ngicela umnyango wezempilo ungikhokhele ngoba impilo yami nje namhlanje ngenxa yomnyango wezempilo ngidinga isinxephezelo ngokungiphoqa. Complainant number 2. Mina Phumla ngicela bazi ukuthi basingcoba siphila into abayenza kuthina ngaphandle kwemvume yethu. Lobu buhlungu siphila nabo zonke izinsuku, silahlekelwa abantu esizwana nabo ngoba asikwazi ukukhuluma iqiniso lokuthi asisakwazi ukuthola abantwana sibakhele umndeni njengomuntu wesimame, siphila nemfihlo ingunaphakade. Lokhu kuyasibulala. Sesihlala nezinyembezi azipheli ngoba sizwa ubuhlungu, kunzima ukwamukela isimo esiphila ngaphansi kwaso. Sicela isinxephezelo ngesenzo abasenza kuthina, sicela ukubhekwa ukuthi senziwani ngoba sihleli nje asazi savalwa okunhloboni yokuvala. Sicela bese uma ikhona i-reversal yenzeke ngoba sihleli kabuhlungu, sikhala ngezinye imihla namalanga uma sisezinsukwini zethu ngenxa yezinhlungu esiba nazo. Kunzima ukuba yithina, siyazibuza sasoneni kubani noma kwakuyisijeziso sokuba HIV positive. Uma kuyisono sicela nazi ukuthi nasijezisa kabuhlungu. Chairperson, there are 10 hospitals in KZN that were investigated in the CGE report. Section 8 of the report stated the following. A thorough analysis of the affidavit by the investigation team has revealed that most of the complainants have been suffering from depression from the time they learned that they will never be able to conceive due to the coerced forced sterilization that they have subjected to. Most of these complainants are women from KwaZulu-Natal region, and the number of them stated that their partners have since left them due to their inability and failure to conceive more children. We note one of the most horrific and humanity story noted in the report. Ms. A alleges that she went to Nkandla Hospital for maternal care in September 2011. She was then informed that she would be giving birth via cesarean section. An appointment was then set for the 18th of September 2011. She was also told by the nurse that she should make sure that she goes to the hospital on the set date, even if she was not experiencing any pain. Ms. A couldn't, however, not make it on the appointment date due to transport problem, but was able to make it on the 19th of September 2011. She was admitted to hospital, and when she got to the ward, the nurse asked her whether the family was aware she was having a cesarean procedure that day. She informed the nurse that she had not informed the family, and the nurse immediately asked her to call them. She called the family and informed that she was giving birth via cesarean. The doctor then arrived and asked Ms. A if she was aware that she was giving birth via cesarean, to which she answers in the affirmative. The doctor then asked if she was aware that she was being sterilized, to which she answered no. After giving birth, the doctor told her that she was going to be sterilized and to be certain he was going to twist her womb. He also said that it was the law of the country that said she must be sterilized. After a few months of the sterilization process, the closure to her fiancé that she has been sterilized. Her fiancé, who was infuriated by the information he had just received, and after 3 months decided to call a family meeting that included externally family members. Even though some expressed sympathy, others ridiculed and expressed their disappointment in Ms. A. The complainant stated that in the end, the marriage could not proceed because of fiancé was no longer interested in pursuing the relationship. Chairperson, women are human beings.
Thank you, Honorable
Women
Muchari.
African
Thank
are
you.
human beings.
Thank you. Your time is up. We are now moving on to the speaker from the NFP for 2 minutes, Honorable Viarim Lodge.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The matter of coerced sterilization is a rather disturbing and a serious unlawful act. KZN and Gauteng public hospitals disregarded the patient's basic human rights and Matupile principle, as well as undermining the patient's ability to act voluntarily. Forced sterilization and coerced sterilization are serious human rights violation as they subject to women inhuman, cruel or degrading treatment, indignity and torture. Noting in the report that more often than not, the victims to these deplorable practices are persons with disabilities, those who are living with HIV, indigenous communities, ethnic minorities, gender and intersex persons, as well as women who live in poverty. However, this does not justify that their rights shall be disregarded or violated as far as their rights to equality and freedom from discrimination and other human rights are concerned. Women were coerced in signing the consent forms and acts of sterilization without their knowledge, under the impression that if they do not comply and were not fall pregnant, they might die because they refuse to undergo the sterilization procedure. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mlocho. We are now moving to the Speaker from the ANC, Honorable Alex H. Hlongwa-Madlala, for 9 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members of the House. Ngiyathanda ukubingelela somlomo namhlanje ntambama nozakwethu bonke, ngibingelela undunankulu abaphathisa nabantu bonke bakithi abasilandela ezinkundleni zokuxhumana. Sanibonani somlomo, ngiyabonga kakhulu ithuba ukuba ngibalwe yi-African National Congress kanye nalabo abangenza umnikelo kule nkulumo ebaluleke kangaka emayelana nombiko wekhomishana yezokulingana ngobulili. Lo mbiko ubaluleke kakhulu ngoba uphatha udaba lokuvala kwenzalo yabesifazane ngoba bephila nesandulala ngculaza. Kungumlando waziwayo ukuthi uKhongolose okuyinhlangano yabantu neyakhulula abantu ukuthi ingumvikeli nomesekeli wabantu abampofu, ikakhulukazi labo ababecindezelwe. In its aims and objectives, the ANC espouses to support and advance the cause of women's emancipation. The nature and character of the ANC is that it shall, in its composition and functioning, be democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and against any form of tribalistic or ethnic exclusivism or chauvinism. It further postulates that it will support the emancipation of women, combat sexism, and ensure that the voice of women is fully heard in the organization and that women are properly represented at all levels. Now, against this background, Honorable Speaker, I stand to condemn the actions of our healthcare workers in institutions mentioned in the CGE report as being unethical, oppressive, undemocratic, and or chauvinistic in nature. We cannot allow people to be subjected to this kind of behavior after 26 years into democracy. Honorable Mpaipeli, we disagree with your assertion that the subject has been shunned by the ANC government. It is also not true that they were forced by the state to sterilize unless you provide us with such evidence, because the report does not have that. We agree that in the main, the candidates who suffered this injustice were women who were prejudiced mainly in the comprehension of the contents of the forms and could have probably have no other where to go in order to access healthcare. Honorable Mchandi, we are fully aware of the pain of the two women, as we have alluded. However, we cannot agree with you in saying it is the government. It is in the individuals in the system we are all servicing today. We agree that the South African Constitution guarantees access to sexual and reproductive rights to all, free of coercion, discrimination, and violence. These rights, Honorable Speaker, guarantee the rights to equality, freedom from discrimination on the basis of race, gender, sex, pregnancy, age, disability, religion, and HIV status. Sterilization Act 44 of 1998 legislated that forced or coerced sterilization is a criminal act. This is exactly what underpinned and continues to underpin the liberation philosophy of the ANC, the protection of human rights, as Honorable Speaker, Honorable Spear has alluded. Honorable Speaker, we are disappointed that the National Department of Health has not worked on the recommendations. Whereas the recommendations were not directed to KZNDOH per se, but to a one government. We think it will be proper for the Minister of Health, Honorable Smelane Zulu, to provide leadership in relation to the civic education and sterilization of women living with HIV, since some of our provincial health institutions were cited in the report. We have to do right to our people. We are dispensers of social justice, and our standing in society should never be denigrated by ill-behaved healthcare workers. The report, Honorable Speaker, exposes the lack of understanding from the side of clients cited and are also a bully kind of behavior as demonstrated by healthcare workers cited in the report. This report, Honorable Speaker and members, punctuates the challenge we have in relation to ethics at workplace. For instance, the report highlights the healthcare worker vilifying a patient, saying, "You HIV people do not ask when you are making babies. Why are you asking questions now? You must be closed up because you HIV positive people like making babies, and it just annoys us. Just sign the forms so it can go through to the theater," she said. We therefore think the recommendation to make this an operational policy requirement that where a patient agrees to sterilization, they must be given a cooling off period in order to fully appreciate the risks and consequences of their sterilization procedure. Patients were coerced to signing forms where they were giving birth so as to confuse them and rob them of their rights to choose. This is deplorable, and the ANC condemns it in the strongest possible terms, this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and abuse on many sides. The Nursing Council is in possession of this report, and I propose that the Health Department follows up on the implicated staff to determine the actions taken thereof. We also charge you, Honorable MEC, to follow up with the NDOH with regards to all other recommendations so that we can clean our system of all undesirable incidents like the ones recorded in the CGE report. Abantu bakithi uma begula basuke benethemba lokuthi uma beze ezibhedlela bazofike bathole ukusizakala, hayi ukuthi badelelwe, babukelwe phansi, baze baqanjelwe amanga ngokuthi banokungaqondi ezinye zezinto abasuke betshelwa zona. Yingakho ngcizelela somlomo ukuthi kube khona ingxoxo ejulile yokufundisa abantu bakithi ngezinto ezibalekile okufanele baziqaphele ukuze igama kahulumeni wethu lingadicilelwa phansi. Miss A, for an example, alleges that she went to Inkandla Hospital for antenatal care in 2011, September. She was then informed that she will be giving birth via CS, and an appointment was set for the 18th of September 2011. The patient was not aware that she was being sterilized until the doctor informed her. Upon inquiry about the matter, the nurses told her that she's being sterilized because she had too many children. The patient protested against sterilization, but she was deceived by the nurses into believing that if she does not get sterilized, she might die. It was in this case that the patient was coerced into filling the sterilization consent forms because she was told by the hospital staff, not government, that they would not assist her in giving birth until the forms were duly completed. She signed the forms under duress. This is unacceptable. This healthcare worker breached their duty of care to the patients. Nurses and doctors cannot chauvinistically push patients to do things contrary to the laws governing this country. Women's rights are human rights too, Speaker. And really, laba bantu abenza lokho, they are standing against Florence Nightingale's belief that nurses' presence with a client is a keystone for making a professional communication. In the UN publication of 2014, the Office of the High Commissioner mentioned that attaining equality between men and women and elimination of all forms of discrimination against women are fundamental human rights and UN values. Women around the world nevertheless regularly suffer violations of their human rights throughout their lives, and realizing women's rights has not always been a priority. Achieving equality between men and women requires a comprehensive understanding of the ways in which women experience discrimination and are denied equality, so as to develop appropriate strategies to eliminate such discrimination. The recommendation to revise consent forms to bring them into conformity with the guidelines of the IFGO and standardize for all sterilization procedures is thus sustained. Honorable Speaker, women's sexual and reproductive health is related to multiple human rights, including the right to life, the right to be free from torture, the right to health, the right to privacy. This means that states have the obligation to respect, protect, and fulfill rights related to women's sexual and reproductive health. The CGE report is underlined by this narrative, and it is our view in the ANC that women's emancipation in all forms is urgent, and therefore we charge the Ministry of Health to ensure that our health institutions become a platform to dispense justice, upholders of human rights, equality, and righteousness. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
We are now moving to Speaker from the Minority Front, Honorable Esther Karesh-Bansi for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Minority Front welcomes the EFF debate on forced sterilization, which is inhuman. Hence, the MH's human rights approach to this debate. There are reports by Amnesty International about abuses of HIV-positive mothers in our hospitals. The MF holds the reproductive rights guaranteed by our Constitution and legislation to women as sacrosanct. The cases quoted by the CGE report occurred in our public hospitals. Hence, each of the 48 women's cases needs to be investigated by the National Health Ombudsman. I have always argued why HIV and AIDS should be made notifiable for the valid reasons of ensuring patients' rights. Postpartum hemorrhage, which is life-threatening to our mothers' lives, has been quoted in many of these cases. But of course, there's a monograph of the management of postpartum hemorrhage by the Health Systems Trust and the exact procedure to be followed. Ethics is a very big part. Hence, when patients' consensus or consent is violated, this cripples our health department with medical litigation. Furthermore, for every obstetric event or problem, just like in maternal or child deaths, there's an adverse events committee which can be audited annually by the National Department of Health, as well as the Office of the Health Standards Compliance. The Provincial Health Committee can also look at the annual confidentiality inquiry into maternal deaths in South Africa report and place this on the agenda for discussion, and adverse events are included here. Honorable Speaker, recently I undertook a patient study assessing patient safety culture in maternity obstetric units in the Mgungunjlova district, and it contains recommendations of how to improve MOUs to meet the norms and standards above general accreditation. Moreover, patient safety regulations are required for building patient trust in our public health sector.
Thank you. Your time is
We
up.
support this debate.
Can we move to Speaker from ATM, who will be represented by Honorable Mlotshwa, as arranged.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The ATM regards the forced sterilization of women as a gross violation of their human rights and dignity. This portrays HIV/AIDS as a permanent stigma to those infected, and this can't be allowed. It is a constitutional right of every person in this country to give a voluntary consent to any medical operations to be done. Therefore, any forced medical performance is illegal and even against the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of United Nations. As a country, we have successfully fought hard stigmatization, HIV/AIDS in our community. And to this far, our people have responded very well. Our people in society have now welcomed each other regardless of health conditions. Therefore, it cannot be the medical sector that resuscitate the stigmatization of this pandemic by sterilization of women with HIV/AIDS. This is an human. The ATM will never support any attempt to violate constitutional rights of women of South Africa on the basis of their medical condition. I thank you.
So we are now moving to the next speaker from the DA, Honorable R. Verana, for 3 minutes.
Oh. What about me, Speaker? What about ACDP, Speaker?
Oh, sorry. My apology. There were cross wires here. Is a speaker from ACDP, Honorable S.E. Mangale.
Thank you, Chair. The infringement of violation of rights should be severely dealt with. We are pleased as ACDP to note that some of the health care workers who force sterilization of HIV-positive mothers are exposed. This is inhuman to sterilize a mother without their consent or placing them under duress, even though health workers know that this can be prevented, the transfer of HIV from mom to babies. So we as ACDP feel that education on abstinence and practices safe sexual activities is crucial to curb the escalation of AIDS and HIV. Kora sihlalo ngiyafisa futhi ukusho ukuthi mhlambe kuyadingeka sihlalo ukuthi sibe nalo ucwaningo lwebhedlela zethu. Ngiyibukwe nje zizonke eSwaZulu-Natal. Ngiyibukwe i-attitude esetshenziswayo ebhedlela ukuthi injani. Ngiyibukwe impathe indlela abantu abaphathwa ngayo. Ngiyibukwe i-standard sazo ibhedlela ngoba angazi ukuthi yini edala ukuthi ama-private hospital engafani nama-private hospital, public hospital engafani nama-private hospitals, konke namaklinikhi. Ziningi lezi zinto ezinje ebhedlela zakithi solokhu siyithola ngama-installment, kanti kube khona nje ucwaningo lwenziwayo olungaphezu kwalolu lesisitholile luzame ukuthi lusilekelele lento sibhekene nazo kanye ngesikhathi esisodwa. Ngiyabonga sihlalo.
Thank you, Honorable Mangala. Now we can move to Honorable Verana from the DA for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the ANC in this debate cannot have its cake and eat it. It cannot be that it's individual health workers' problems when things go wrong in our health system. Yet it's the ANC government's success and collective responsibility when things go right. That is not how it works. The ANC appointed MEC Dlomo. It's not surprising that this happened under him. He's previously been named as a human rights violator by the SA Human Rights Commission in the oncology crisis. However, instead of acting against former MEC Dlomo, he's been promoted to the chairperson of the National Health Portfolio Committee. However, most worrying is that his delinquency has spread down into some public hospitals. And I quote from the CGE report that when members of the commission who interviewed hospital staff were faced with very hostile reception, who were in most cases extremely uncooperative. This hostility was from both hospital management and healthcare workers. And most concerning, I quote, in some hospitals in Durban, the hospital staff tried to hide documents from them while others blatantly refused to indulge them. Now, the CGE is a Chapter 9 institution of this constitution, a constitution that all South Africans agreed to and negotiated for, not just one political party. And its role in investigative mandate and reports must be respected and upheld. As the DA, we call on current MEC, Simelane Zulu, for firm action against all departmental staff who try to hamper this investigation. We cannot have illegality or unconstitutional actions in our KZN Department of Health. And while many of these recommendations are aimed at the National Health Department, that does not mean there's complacency by the provincial government. And we call on MEC Simelane Zulu to follow up with Minister Mkhize on progress of the recommendations. And we call that these recommendations and updates be presented to the Health Portfolio Committee so that we as legislators in this province can have the oversight that we require to make sure that no rights of women in this province are violated again. We come from a history of human rights violations, and we cannot have this repeated in a democratic South Africa. And we, as the Democratic Alliance, will continue to fight for the rights of the most vulnerable to be respected. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Verana. We now move to the Speaker from the ANC, Honorable Simelane Zulu.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this important debate. Speaker, before I get into any point that I want to raise, I just want to indicate indicate my shock at the obsession of the DA with Dr. Dlomo. I think, Speaker, we must just agree, and the DA must allow Dr. Dlomo to be able to do his work where he is doing his work. He was deployed in the province. He did his work. He did the best he could, and he was able to implement decisions of the African National Congress. And I think, as the ANC, we are quite happy about the work that he has done. So, Honorable Verana ngempela akakamdedela Honorable Dlomo Sihlalo amiyeke enza umsebenzi wakhe lapho national ngoba he's doing a very good job. Let me then start, Chair, with the point that was raised by Umhlonishwa we-EFF, and that indicated that the government had shunned the report eyaqhamuka, and I must indicate that is not true. And Honorable Sibiya indicate kahle le ndaba Sihlalo umeyibeka. Indicate ukuthi the matter is currently being investigated, and those that are found or were found to be guilty on the matter have actually or are being brought to book. The first point, Chair, that I think we need to indicate and understand, and again here I want to speak to the DA. This matter was not brought forward by the DA in 2014. In fact, this is a matter that started being investigated by Human Rights Chairperson in 2012. And this is after the victims themselves, they went and complained to the Human Rights. At the time, there were 18 women from the province of KwaZulu-Natal who went and who complained to the Human Rights, and the Human Rights started investigating the matter. Now, these were interviewed and claimed to have been forced into having a sterilization procedure because they were HIV positive. We have also been made aware, Chair, that of a more recent study, and again, I think this is the study we all know, that now the Commission for Gender Equality has cited 48 more cases of women from around the country who claim to have been forcibly removed. We must underline that this has been around the country. Chair, I think we must acknowledge that and appreciate the fact that Honorable Uhlongwa was able to actually read the report, Chairperson. She is speaking to what the report says, unlike the honorable member from the EFF, who actually brought a report based on the information that is in the media. What Honorable Hlongwa speaks about is exactly what the report is talking about. But first, let me just say up front that when these allegations first surfaced in the department, again, this is now when the Commission for Gender Equality released its report, Chair. We were very much shocked, concerned, quiet. We were shocked, concerned, and quite frankly, we were dismayed and very embarrassed by what has happened, and justifiably so. It is inconceivable that anyone, let alone a healthcare professional, can think that it is acceptable to infringe upon another person's human rights in this particular fashion. And siyazi sihlala ukuthi abantu for people to be able to be sterilized. Oh, sorry, sekuvaleke i-camera sihlala. I hope I'm back. We know, Chair, that for patients, for them to be sterilized, they need to be explained, taken through a process. Now, iyenzeka leyo nto. Into ke njengomnyango okufuna sikwazi ukuthi si-investigate esihlala ukuthi, is this being done correctly? Are the processes and protocols put in place being implemented? And this is a process that we have already started. We received, and when we read the report, Chairperson, it was talking about 11 hospitals in KwaZulu-Natal that are affected. There are other hospitals in other provinces that have been affected. But I also want to emphasize the fact that affected in these cases, it's not just public hospitals. They are private hospitals that have also been implicated, and there are doctors who operate in those private hospitals and have been named. Without commenting on the specifics of the cases, Chair, and we are aware which are these hospitals or as they are still under investigation, we read the report, and in reading the report, we understood exactly what Honorable Hlongwa was indicating, that some of the patients are patients that were forced to be sterilized because you are HIV positive, therefore awukwazi ukuthi uqhubeke uthole ingane, noma you are positive usuzoshona ingane yakho izogadwa ubani. Abanye balama patients that have been forced, Chair, we are aware ukuthi basayiniswa ama-forms, consenting forms, sebengena e-theatre, which means in essence they were being coerced. So when we look at that investigation, we agree entirely with the report that comes from the Commission for Gender Equality, which is why we decided that although it's a report that has been sent to the national minister, but we ourselves in the province are going to ensure that we do our part, because we have the responsibility as well to make sure that we take care of our patients in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Chairperson, we understand that, and what we need clarity on is that this is not a report that speaks to what is happening currently or what has happened in the past 5 years. This report speaks to what happened from 2007, according to the report, to about 2012. And those are the investigations and the cases that have come out. And it is correct that some of the patients have actually passed on, and we feel extremely bad about that. However, between the time that 2007 and 2013, 2014, Chair, this is when the availability of medication was not widespread. This is when the issue of rate of infection and mortality due to HIV and AIDS was extremely high in the country, and that at the same time, the life-saving antiretroviral treatment was not readily available to our people. At that time, the drugs for prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and AIDS, afana-nonnevirapine, were not available. Immediately after that, the government of the African National Congress made sure that our people have access to this treatment, to this life-saving treatment, Chairperson, so that their lives are actually saved and their lives are prolonged. Namhlanje sihlalo kuyenzeka ukuthi umama akwazi ukuthi athole ingane noma yena nga-positive, but athole ingane ibe negative due to the policies and the implementation of those policies by the ANC-led government. This government has been able to learn from mistakes of the past. It is correct, Chair, that it cannot be the ANC that was killing people. Some of our health workers were the ones who were not implementing a policy, the African National Congress, as it was stipulated. The ANC has it written down in law. what needs to be followed for a patient to be sterilized. Therefore, it means that the health workers, when they take the patients through and when they brief the patients, they also have a moral duty to ensure that the patients are informed and are treated accordingly. Our position at this, as this ANC government, is that all women, irrespective or regardless of their HIV status, should always have the right to make their own decisions about their sexual reproductive health and their related choices. Standing here, Chairperson, I can confirm that the Department of Health does not have a policy that says HIV positive women should be sterilized. And we are firm that anyone who treats our patients in that particular fashion, we will take actions against them. If these allegations of forced relations are indeed true, and we believe they are because we have started engaging with some of the patients, Chair, that complained, we will make sure that those that are affected and we can still find them will actually be brought to book, and we will report them to their relevant professional bodies so that they are able to be treated as criminals that they are as delinquents. I can say unequivocally that under our watch, such conduct will never be allowed in this department. In fact, I encourage any woman who believes she was sterilized without her knowledge or permission to come forward so that we can conduct an investigation and implement consequence management going forward. Chairperson?
How say
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Speaking as a member of the debate.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, point of order.
We have exhausted our...
Honorable Deputy Speaker, point of order.
We are now going to...
Honorable Deputy Speaker, point of order.
You want to be noticed?
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Let's see from the Chief Whip.
Oh, it's Kaula, it's not the Chief Whip.
Presiding Chairperson.
Yeah.
Honorable Chairperson, I think it's for the second time now in this House, Honorable Kaula is calling you Deputy Speaker.
Oh.
And that's wrong. He either calls you a speaker because you're representing a speaker or a chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Kaula, can you behave where you are?
Honorable Speaker.
What information does he have?
Okay, can we move on to the mover of the debate?
Are the nominations in?
Honorable
Honorable Paipeli will give you we'll give you 10 minutes. Thank you.
Ibonge Sihlalo. Sihlalo mangiqale ngiqedele ispeech sami before ngiphendule. To show just how serious our government is about tackling this gross violation of women's bodies, none of these recommendations have been actioned thus far. No engagement was had with the victims of this despicable act. None of the health workers responsible have been taken to task for violating not only women's bodies, but only breaking the law with impunity. The Provincial Department of Health here in KwaZulu-Natal has not done anything to act on the report since it was released too. The generalized contempt for Black women's bodies is not only done by rough men on the street, it is institutionalized at the level of government. We have a clear constitutional mandate as the provincial legislature. We must speak on behalf of the downtrodden. We must hold the executive to account. It is within our power to force the department to account on its failures to implement remedial action as far as this relates to violation of rights that took place in this province. We put it to this House that collectively we can chart a new progressive way forward together as representatives of the people. we can redefine the very nature of state engagement with the marginalized and the oppressed. As we begin the period of 16 days of activism against violence perpetrated on women and children, let us together make a very bold statement that in this province, we will have a zero tolerance for the abuse of women. Let us all condemn the role played by the state in sanctioning these violent acts on women's bodies. But most importantly, let us act. The lives of millions of women in this country depend on our ability to act today. Honorable MEC Zulu, let's correct you. 10 hospitals in KZN, not 11, and 30 women are from KZN. Investigated started in 2015, not 2012. We are shocked to learn and see people too petty and myopic on this very sensitive subject. We are appeal to their conscience to self-reflect and further urge them to kill the selfish tendencies of stooping so slow eager to score cheap political points. Kodwa ke siyaqonda ukuba they must toe a party line bavikele ukungcola okwenziwa abasemagunyeni. Ngeke siphele amandla sizolwa nokuhlukunyezwa kwabesifazane behlukunyezwa nguwe lo hulumeni ka-ANC. Ngqongqoshe uSimelane, mawuphuma kule debate, cela ukhulume nabasemagunyeni kwisibhedlela iLower Mfolozi eMpangeni apho bekutransferwe khona owesifazane ebeyoteta. Isibhedlele esimtransferile besimsayinise iform without ukumchazela ukuthi yeyantoni iform, kanti iform yeyokuthi uyosterilizer. So lo wesifazane ukuleso sibhedlele kumanje bangaphi abesifazane abahlukumezekayo ngokusayiniswa bengazi. IFP, we thank you for standing against the wrongs done by the ANC on our women arrogance displayed by the ANC. Umhlonishwa Sibiya uyavuma ukuthi ihlazo lento eyenzekayo okuxakayo ukuthi kwenzeka ngaphansi kwalohulumeni ka-ANC. Umbuzo othi senenzeni ngokuthi kuboshwe izigilamkhuba, ukuphoqwa kwabesifazane ukuthi bavalwe inzalo, ukuhlukumeza ilungelo labo. Sifuna lo hulumeni avule amacala obugebengu ngokushesha. Uma ningakwenzi lokho njenge-EFF sizovulela lo hulumeni kanye nomnyango wezempilo amacala. Sifuna ukuthi laba abahlukunyeziwe bathole ukweluleka ngokwengqondo nomphefumulo. Sifuna ukuthi labo asebashona imindeni yabo inxephezelwe. Sifuna ukuthi bonke abasaphila bafunwe banxephezelwe. Sinikeza lo hulumeni nomnyango wezempilo amasonto amabili ukuthi wethule lo umbiko kulendlu. Ngale kwalokho siyohlangana enkantolo. ANC kaniyeke kuba arrogant. We call on all the women of KZN in South Africa to stand against inhuman conduct done by ANC on human bodies. ANC, you should hide yourself. In shame, you promoted Dr. Dlomo, who was heading this department. Dlomo should be ashamed. MEC Simelane, you must refuse to inherit the wrong, more especially on matters of gender-based violence. Stand up as a woman and hold these who did such evil acts accountable.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of this debate. I want to remind the speakers to forward their speaker's note to the legislature as requested at the beginning of the sitting. So the House now is adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, the 26th of November 2020 at 9 at the Royal Showground. The sitting is a physical sitting. With those words, this sitting for today is adjourned until 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Ngiyathokoza. Ngiyathokoza.
Khawula kade uhlupha namhlanje.
Ngiyathokoza.
Thank you.
Ucathi ngingabambisa umvelasi uqanda lenjelani.
Belabuthiso khawula ngathi udla imbamba lapha eParliament.
Wazana suka pesa yeyi. Ah. Uyaqova kabisa.
Hey, ishlala sikaduma lesi ngizwe kuthiwa hayi esikaduma.
Emthombeni.
Uqubile nje hey.
Emthombeni.
Hola kabisa abuqova hey.
Ucabanga ukuthi ningabambisa ikhomani yesiqanda lenjelani ngiyoke ngibone kahle kusasa. Sizowathola kahle amakhomani.
Uduma
Hayipheli. Nizowathola kahle amakhomani mina.
Bye, honorable members. Bye.
Ugabhisa uzwele ukuzoxoxa nje namhlanje.